What's up, guys? It's Eric from Rare Candy, and today we're back with another deck and battle video here on PTCGO. And today we're going to be taking a look at Mega Scizor, but before we do that, just going to go over a little bit of a regionals recap. This is actually the same exact deck that I played at regionals. I think on PTCGO I did forget to change my count of Sycamore and N to a split of 3 each. But other than that, this is the same exact list. So why did I decide to play Mega Scizor at regionals? It's probably a weird deck that you wouldn't expect to see a ton of play, which I think for the most part was true. There was some people playing this, but I don't think I saw a ton of it when I was there. But so why did I decide to play this? Well, after rotation, a lot of people were starting to hype Mega Rayquaza, especially because Karen was going to be legal in time for regionals. So there's a little bit of hype there, and also Mega Mewtwo looked to be a really powerful deck now that Night March is out of the format and Mewtwo doesn't get knocked out by Pumpkaboos anymore. So that also looked to be big. Fairy decks, different Gardevoir variants and Xerneas variants, whether it's Xerneas Break or Rainbow Road. There's also Giratina, which even though it does prevent Megas, I do have a way to deal with that in this deck as well. So really, I think Mega Scizor has a great chance against so many different decks in the format for a number of reasons. I think its only real loss is going to be Volcanion EX, but the reason I really wasn't worried about that is because there's so many other decks that, to be honest, just beat Volcanion pretty easily. Greninja, Mega Rayquaza, Mega Mewtwo, Aquabox variants. I just think Volcanion doesn't have a great chance in this metagame, though a couple did, I think, make day 2 at regionals. But nevertheless, my thought process was, well, if I can dodge Volcanion for the first 3 or 4 rounds of regionals, then I probably am safe from playing it the rest of the day. And that's actually exactly what happened. I didn't play against any Volcanion the entire day. I played against 4 Greninja decks, which, yeah, I got a little tired playing Greninja after a while. A couple of Mega Mewtwo decks, a Vespiquen variant, a Dark variant, and I think a Rainbow Road deck. I think that might have been it. But anyways, so yeah, I dodged Volcanion the entire tournament, luckily, and I ended up going 6-2-1, which is a little anticlimactic because you needed to be at least 6-1-2 to make it into the day 2 portion of the tournament. So 6 wins, 1 loss, 2 ties, or better. So if one of my games had gone a little bit differently, then who knows, maybe I'd be writing a top 8 report or something, who knows. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with my deck choice. I don't regret playing this at all. One of my losses was to actually a Greninja deck, and I prized 2 Trubbishes, so that's really bad. Had that not happened, that series, who knows, might have gone differently. But yeah, like I said, I like this deck. I think it was a great pick. I don't regret it whatsoever. But anyways, guys, I'm going to quit rambling on about that. So let's get into the actual deck profile itself and see what makes it tick. So we have a couple obvious inclusions. We have our 2 Shaman for the ability Set Up. Whenever you bench him, you get drawn until you have 6 cards in your hand. We also have Hoopa EX for its Scoundrel Ring ability. So this is a great card, especially on the first turn of the game. If you play down Hoopa, you can use this ability to search for 3 Pokemon EX. So this is good because we can grab 2 Scizors and a Shaman, or maybe if we get Hoopa on the second turn, we can grab maybe like a Scizor, a Shaman, and a Mega Scizor to evolve into. So definitely a great inclusion. Every game that I prized this card, I was kind of bummed. It definitely made a big difference. So then we also have our main attacker of the deck. It's going to be Mega Scizor, but let's take a look at the regular version. It actually is a decent card, 170 hit points, pretty standard, but it has the attack Steel Wing, which actually is very relevant. Believe it or not, 20 damage doesn't seem like it'd be important at all, but it actually does make a difference for some matchups. So Steel Wing for a Metal Energy, it does 20, and during your opponent's next turn, any damage done to this Pokemon is reduced by 20. So why is this good? Well, our Mega attacks for 120, and which is good because it 2-shots all of these different Megas and EXs in the format. But against a lot of non-EXs, they have 130 hit points. So we have Greninja, for example, both of the regular Yveltals, Volcanion, etc. So there's just a lot of different Pokemon that have like 130 or 140 hit points. Again, Mega Break is another example. So on the first turn of the game, just being able to do Steel Wing it makes a difference in some matchups. So actually a decent attack I had to use at different points during the tournament, and has the other attack Gale Thrust, which is actually good as well. For 2 metal, it does 50 plus 60 more if Scizor was on your bench and became your active Pokemon this turn. So this is good because if we do have to attack with this, we can do 110, which is still good because we can finish off a knockout with our Mega, hopefully on the following turn. So, and also it pairs nicely with the first attack. So if we use Gale Thrust to do 110, we can use Steel Wing to finish off some of these 130 hit point Pokemon that we're talking about. But really, the star of the show is going to be Mega Scizor EX. So 220 hit points, pretty standard for a Mega, but it has the attack Iron Crusher for 2 metal, it does 120, and you may discard a special energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon or a Stadium card in play. So 120 is great, like I said, because you can two-shot pretty much everything in the format, maybe outside of a Fighting Fury Belted Zygarde EX or like a Wailord EX. But other than that, Iron Crusher does a pretty good job. And the effect of the attack is really why we're playing it. 2 for 120 is definitely a good energy to damage ratio, but with all these other megas that can take one-hit knockouts, there has to be some advantage to playing Scizor, and that is going to be, like I said, the effect of the attack. So this is good because you can effectively always win the Stadium War with any deck. So if they play a Parallel City on you and disrupt your field and makes it so that you can only have bench or 3 bench Pokemon, you can discard that Stadium. If they play Faded Town, which is actually one of the most popular cards I saw at regionals, people were definitely expecting Megas to have a huge turnout, which they did. So Mega Scizor was able to deal with that. So like I said, always helps you win the Stadium War. And discarding special energy is so important too, because I think Volcanion is probably the only deck that plays just basic energy. Pretty much every other deck I can think of off the top of my head plays special energy. So even like Mega Rayquaza, Mega Mewtwo, even a lot of other Mega Scizor decks play a couple shield energy, Vespiquen variants, Giratina variants. So this attack is just so good against so many different decks. And even Greninja as well, it's really important to note that if they play Splash Energy, the effect of Iron Crusher actually discards the energy before they can activate it. So even against Greninja, who doesn't play many special energy, this Iron Crusher can really disrupt their flow of being able to stream Greninjas throughout the course of the game. So just a very good attack, and we have all sorts of other ways and forms of disruption to complement this as well. So the other key component of the deck is going to be a 2/2 Garbodor line. So Garbodor has the Garbotoxin ability. As long as it has a tool attached to it, every Pokemon has no abilities other than Garbotoxin. So this is good for just so many different things. Giratina EX is a very obvious one. It walls against Megas, so we need a way to deal with that. And also Greninja. Greninja is, I mean, I told you I played against 4 of them in the course of one tournament. So you definitely need a way to deal with that deck, because otherwise it kind of runs over you. Since they can two-shot you, you two-shot them. So Garbodor really makes that matchup from bad to kind of more even, I think. Also, if you go against any Yen Mega variants, you kind of just shut down their entire deck. Just a very good card, and like I said, kind of needed in a couple key matchups. And the last Pokemon that we're going to run is one Cobalion. I've got to say, this is like one of my MVPs throughout the course of the tournament. I originally played Delinquent in this list, but I chose to cut it for Cobalion just because we only run EXs as attackers. So pretty much our opponent has a 6 prize, can take 6 prizes just off 3 EXs. And that's really not optimal. We kind of want to force them into a 7 prize game at some point. So Cobalion offers us a way to do that. And also is good against other things. If we go against a deck that plays Regice that walls against our EXs, we can use Cobalion to knock that out. Also good against Glaceon EX as well. So just good against a good tech card against certain things. So Cobalion has the attack Quick Guard for 1 metal. You prevent all damage done to him by attacks from basic Pokemon on your opponent's next turn, but you can't use Quick Guard on the next turn either. So this is good, especially if we go against dark decks that usually play only basics, or even Volcanion. I think we still pretty much get demolished, but it gives you a better chance against that too. But yeah, those decks only play basic Pokemon normally, and so you can kind of stall on the first turn if you do have to open with this. And its other attack is going to be Revenge Blast. For 2 metal, it does 30 plus 30 more for every prize card your opponent has taken. So ideally, we want to lead the game with our Megas, but once 2 Megas go down, we are hitting for 150 with Revenge Blast, which is great for just a non-EX attacker like this. Just so good. And also, if we can force our opponent to knock out our Garbodor or a Trubbish and get them down to only 1 prize, we're hitting 180. So definitely a very strong backup attacker in the late game. So yeah, guys, that's going to be it for the Pokemon line. Moving on to the supporters, we're playing a split of 4 Sycamore and 2 N. Like I said, in the actual tournament, I played 3 of each. I just forgot to change it for PTCGO here. But Sycamore, discard your hand, draw 7, self-explanatory. And then N, shuffle your hand, or each player shuffles their hand into their deck and draws equal to the number of prize cards they have remaining. So I chose to up the count to 3 of these just because there's so many different moving pieces in this deck. We have Spirit Links, Float Stones, Evolutions, Mega Turbos. I found myself having to discard a lot of stuff I really wanted to save. So that's why I changed the count to 3 N and 3 Sycamore instead. 2 Lysander. So switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. So Mega Scizor, like we've been saying, takes 2 hit knockouts, and at some point your opponent probably is going to retreat to try to prevent you from taking a knockout, so you need at least 2 Lysander to be able to deal with that. And the last supporter is going to be 1 Team Flare Grunt. Discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's kind of a card we don't see too often, but this was actually an MVP over the weekend. I remember I Flare Grunted 3 turns in a row and just kind of ran my opponent almost out of energy. So this card definitely did come in handy for me. But it's cool because you can let's just say we're going against Mega Mewtwo, for example, and they have a double colorless and a psychic. We can Team Flare Grunt for the turn to discard their psychic, and then we can use our Mega Scizor to discard their double colorless energy as well. This is also good against maybe Giratina EX. If we have our Garbodor out, we can Team Flare Grunt 1 double dragon energy and then use Iron Crusher to discard their other one as well. So there's just a lot of situations where being able to discard 2 energies in one turn makes a huge difference. So that's it for the supporters. Pretty streamlined supporter line. Then just 4 Versus Seekers to reuse all those different supporters. 4 Ultra Ball, pretty self-explanatory. Discard 2 cards from your hand and search your deck for a Pokemon. We can grab Hoopa to grab 3 other EXs. So you can effectively get 4 Pokemon off 1 card, which is really nice. 4 Trainer's Mail, another self-explanatory, just good consistency card. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal a trainer card you find there, put it into your hand. So we have a ton of different moving pieces in this deck. Like I said, we have Spirit Links, Float Stones, Mega Turbos, etc. So Trainer's Mail is just good to help us dig and get really what we're looking for the turn. 1 Super Rod to shuffle 3 of any Pokemon or basic energy from your discard into your deck. Just a good form of recovery in the late game. 2 Mega Turbo, attach a basic energy from your discard to one of your Mega Evolutions. So even though our Mega Scizor does have a pretty manageable attack cost, at some point in the game, you'd have to imagine we might have a situation where we only have 1 Mega Scizor powered up and it gets knocked out. Well, we need a way to power up another one very quickly out of nowhere at some point in the game. So Mega Turbo just helps with that, just helps get an additional attachment for the turn. 1 Enhanced Hammer, discard a special energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. We're playing 3 Crushing Hammer. I opted to cut the 4th one for an Enhanced Hammer just to have a guaranteed discard, just since there's so many decks that play special energy. Like I said, Volcanion is one of the few exceptions. So I thought it'd be nice just to have at least 1 guaranteed energy get discarded. 3 Crushing Hammer, flip a coin. If heads, discard an energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Just another good way to discard energy. Typically, I have to admit, I hate playing flip cards, especially in large tournaments like a regionals. But like I said, if you can get the heads and discard an energy with Iron Crusher in the same turn, it can be really huge in a lot of situations. Okay, we're also playing 3 Scizor Spirit Link, self-explanatory just to make sure our turn doesn't end when we Mega Evolve. 3 Float Stone, so it's a tool card and whatever Pokemon it's attached to gets free retreat. It's mainly for our Garbodors, that way our Garbodor has free retreat and we can activate its ability, but we can also put on other things like our Hoopa, Shaman, Cobalion, just to give our board a little bit more mobility if we choose to. And rounding out the trainer cards, we're going to play 2 Parallel City. So this is just another way we can further disrupt our opponent here. This is one of those cool cards from Breakthrough that has 2 different effects. So whatever player has the blue side facing them, they can only have 3 bench Pokemon, and whatever side the red is facing, that player's grass, fire, and water Pokemon do 20 less damage. So this is such a good card in so many different ways. I actually opt to play the blue side against myself in a lot of situations, because on the first turn you can go kind of aggressive with Hoopa, you know, grab a Shaman, a couple Scizor, or maybe get a Trubbish down on the same turn, and then Parallel City yourself and discard your useless Hoopa and Shaman. It's also good against Greninja because when you do that, it reduces their damage done to you as well, which is really important because the damage from their attacks and Burst Balloon adds up really well to knock out Mega Scizor if you can't reduce that damage. So just a very, very strong card. And we can, like I said, Parallel City ourselves, discard some bench Pokemon, and then we can actually discard it with Iron Crusher as well. That way we can start playing down Pokemon we actually want on our bench again. And then just to round out the whole list, we're playing 10 Metal Energy. Seems like a good count. I was playing 9 at one point, but I was having trouble drawing into it on the first turn or 2 of the game, which is not good. You really don't want to miss a manual attachment with this deck if you can help it. Yeah, guys, that is going to be the list. Overall, I am really happy with this list. The only thing I would maybe change in hindsight is I would maybe try to find room for a Giovanni scheme. Because like I was kind of saying, there's a lot of Pokemon that have 130 hit points, and it's kind of awkward for Mega Scizor to knock them out. So Giovanni's scheme would have helped countless times at regionals this past weekend. I played against 4 Greninjas, so that would have come in handy definitely at some point there. I played against a Dark deck that ran, 130 hit point Pokemon. So it would have been a very crucial card, I think, in a lot of situations. But other than that, I'm really happy with this. I wouldn't change my deck choice. But anyways, guys, I'm going to quit rambling. I'm going to go over to the battle video and show you how this actually looks in action, okay? All right, guys, looks like we got ourselves a game here. And calling the coin flip. Let's see if we can get heads. That's not good. So we do lose, or do is the flip. And this hand is not the greatest either. So we'll have to see what we can work with. Luckily, we do have that Shaman. Ooh, and we actually are going up against a Greninja break, and we saw there he played Faded Town as well, so that's definitely going to be dangerous. He had 2 Faded Town in his hand that time, so that tells me he's playing at least 2, possibly a 3rd. Okay, so luckily our opponent did mulligan a ton, so we should be able to draw some decent cards to work with. Okay, and he starts with Froakie, so that's actually really good. He's not starting with the Talonflame. Talonflame in particular is actually a really annoying card to knock out. Like we were saying earlier, the HP on it is 130, so it can be kind of hard to knock out. So glad he is starting with Froakie instead. Here, what do we grab here? We can get ourselves a Float Stone. I like that. That way we can more easily get out our ability lock for the following turn. And not going to get anything off the trainers now because we're just going to play in here. No point in grabbing anything off of it. Okay, so we do have an Ultra Ball, so that's great. That means we will be able to get Hoopa, or worst case scenario, a Scizor if it's surprised. Ooh, and Hoopa is actually prized this game, but luckily we still have most of our other Pokemon in the deck. Looks like we did prize Metal. No, we have it in hand. Okay, it looks like pretty much most of our key cards are in our deck, so that's really good. So here we can get our Scizor down with a Metal Energy and just pass. So this actually isn't too bad of a setup. We can just evolve into Garbodor on the next turn, And even if we whiff the Mega, we can still attack with the regular Scizor and get a knockout here. Okay, hopefully he doesn't get Burst Balloon, because if we can get rid of this Froakie with 2 energy on it, that would be kind of nice, and not have to take damage. So he has the Froggy. Does he have the Balloon? That's the big thing. Oh god, he does have it. Here we're going to see a Water Duplicate. So that's kind of annoying, I guess. So here we can attach to the Scizor and just first seek for an N. Hate to give our opponent a fresh hand, but you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. And this is not a great hand either. We do get a Spirit Link, a Cobalion, which will probably be key at some point in this matchup, like I was saying earlier, to force a 7 prize game instead of just attacking with Scizors the entire time. So here we can attack into it, but yeah, I think I kind of like this, just putting up the Cobalion and passing, because I don't really want to attack into it if we're going to take damage and he has the Splash Energy. It may have been worth it if he had, or if we had the Mega, that way we could have at least gotten rid of the Splash. The plus side is we do have Garbodor out, so that means he won't be able to use Greninja Break's ability to do Water Shuriken, which is that ability that puts 6 damage counters anywhere if you discard a Water Energy from hand. I should say 6 damage counters to one of your opponent's Pokemon, not exactly anywhere. Okay, so we're going to see a Moonlight Slash, but I'm okay with that since it doesn't knock out our Cobalion. But here we actually have a pretty decent hand to work with. We can evolve into that Mega Scizor. Probably attach to this Cobalion, that's fine. And just Sycamore away, this extra stuff. We did have to get rid of Super Rod, which is slightly annoying, but we'll try to make it work here. So we can retreat to our Mega and use Iron Crusher, and we get to get rid of that Splash Energy. That's the big thing here. That'll prevent him from getting that Greninja line back when it gets knocked out. The Splash Energy, it's a special energy. Whenever it's attached to a Pokemon and it gets knocked out, you get to get that entire Pokemon line back to your hand. So it's really big that we get to knock that off. So here's going to go for a Lysander, okay. I'm actually okay with that because we can power up this Mega Scizor as well. So here we just checking to make sure. I think we had a metal in the discard there. Okay, so we can get a Crushing Hammer. That's actually kind of cool. See if we can get heads. Nice, we get that energy off our opponent's bench. Greninja Break, Mega Evolve, Attach for turn, and Mega Turbo. So our opponent probably is a little annoyed by that. We had pretty much everything to make that work. And just a Sycamore. Ooh, okay, and Perilous City, that's actually an important one as well. So yeah, I don't mind that. So let's do that. That works for me. So even though we will limit our bench size to 3, it will make our opponent do 20 less damage to us. We do know he plays Fated Town, so we do have to watch out for that. But even if we can buy like a turn or two of, not taking as much damage, that is okay with me. And Ace Trainer, that's kind of annoying. So Ace Trainer, that's that supporter card. If you are losing, both players shuffle in, you get 6, your opponent gets 3. So, but luckily we do have Versus Seeker, so we can just grab a Sycamore for our next turn. So, not too bad. And our opponent whiffs a Bursting Wound too, so I'm really happy about this. I think a big thing in this matchup that determines who wins is how many times Scizor is forced into attacking in the Burst Balloon. But our opponent still does have a bunch left in the deck, so we're definitely not out of the clear yet, but we are getting a little lucky to avoid attacking into one this turn. So we can potentially retreat into our Mega, but right now if our opponent attacks into us, they'll only do 60 because of Perilous City. So if our opponent keeps the stadium in play, we will be able to survive another hit. So it's kind of a gamble here, but nevertheless, we're going to risk it here, I think. And we do have Versus Seeker anyway, so if our opponent does decide to... Oh crap, he does get the Fated Town, so that means he is going to be able to knock us out. slightly annoying. So maybe I should have retreated that Mega Scizor. Not sure. Might have been a better decision here. So our opponent is going to get a knockout here. Unfortunately, that's really aggravating. So yeah, maybe I should have retreated that. Okay, so here we get a Scizor down. On the bench, we can Mega Turbo. Even though we don't need 3 energy to do the attack, we will probably have to manually retreat that Mega Scizor at some point. But at least this will preserve an energy on it to maybe repower it back up later. So we really don't want to attack into this Greninja here. So looks like I'm debating. I think the reason I'm debating actually knocking out the other one is because we're going to have to 2-hit knock out everything regardless. I'd rather just get as much damage on the field as possible. That way he can never promote a completely fresh Greninja for us to try to knock out. Okay, it does get down Faded Town again. That is really problematic here, but luckily we do have 2 Versus Seekers in hand, so we can just Versus Seeker for Lysander to knock out something else. Yeah, and we can discard the Stadium with Iron Crusher anyway, so here it looks like we're going to just finish off this Greninja break here. Use Iron Crusher, discarding that Faded Town. So even if our opponent does a Moonlight Slash again, we will still have 20 damage or 20 health remaining here. So we are doing a good job trying to avoid these Burst Balloons, but Faded Town damage is kind of making... Oh my god, he has the 3rd Faded Town. So that'll be literally just enough damage to get a knockout here, and that's actually kind of rough. And he plays Eco Arm in this list. Oh god. So we're going to attack through 7 Burst Balloons in the course of this game, or have to try to get around 7 in total this game. Because we're assuming our opponent plays 4 plus the 1 Eco Arm. So here you can actually see how good Faded Town is against these Mega decks. This is what made Greninja still a viable deck at regionals, despite there being so many Garbodor and Mega decks. Here we will just grab ourselves an N. Luckily our opponent does not have a Burst Balloon, but we can take down their massive hand just down to a 2-card hand. We do get a Metal Energy, which is really important. We need to power up this Scizor because this Cobalion is probably not going to last after this turn. Because our opponent does have a lot of cards left in the deck. People are going to do Steel Wing for 120, or for 20, and that might seem weird, but Cobalion can actually do 150 as of right now. So I rather... Yeah, see, our opponent has access to Fisherman, so if we had promoted Cobalion, it would have gotten knocked out. Here, our opponent's going to do Moonlight Slash for 60 damage, it looks like. So we'll retreat in Cobalion, and we will be able to knock it out with Revenge Blast this turn. It looks like I'm debating attaching, but yeah, I see no reason not to. Oh, maybe I'm thinking about ending potentially. And if we do end, that would make our deck a little smaller because we do only have 5 cards left. We have to be careful not to deck out here as well. But here we're going to do Revenge Blast for 150, and so we are probably going to get knocked out here. But luckily the math for Scizor's attacks works out nicely against these Greninjas. So long as he doesn't get another breakout, I think we still have a chance to actually pull through and win this one. So here we can promote Garbodor. And, okay, we have a Crushing Hammer, so we can actually get rid of that Water Energy potentially as well. The big thing here is we definitely have to enter our opponent. He has one prize card left. We really need to limit his options, so we need to probably use Crushing Hammer. Yeah, definitely should have played Crushing Hammer there. Maybe I was just being a little too cautious about decking out, but yeah, I think that was a bit of an oversight. Okay, cool. So yeah, now we're going to do Gale Thrust, and then if our opponent whiffs the Mega, we can knock this out with a Steel Wing on the next turn. And he has a Burst Balloon and an N. Okay, this is really bad here. Well, oh, and he actually whiffs the energy. That's really big. So here we have a little bit of a situation. We can retreat in a Garbodor and pass to get rid of the Bursting Balloon, or we can go for the Steel Wing and just say, hey, you either have to have an energy and win, or I'm going to win. So it's kind of a risk-reward situation, but I think we need to go for it. Go for the Steel Wing for 20. We grab a Hoop off the prize. It's pretty relevant at this point, but yeah, he needs a Water Energy. If he gets it, he wins. If not, we win here. So what does he have? Just a big moment of truth. Oh, and our opponent just concedes, so he must not have had the energy. That's insane. That was a super close game. Our opponent just had one prize left. And actually, in my testing, I originally thought Mega Scizor would just beat Greninja just because you play Garbodor. But the math between Bursting Balloons and Moonlight Slashes just adds up so nicely to knock out Scizors. And it's actually not a bad matchup for Greninja. I think it's maybe 50-50, maybe 60-40 in favor of Scizor. Like I said, I think it really just depends on how many Burst Balloons you are forced to attack into. But anyways, guys, I definitely appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed this. As usual, feel free to like and subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch over at rarecandytcg.com. It'd mean a lot if you could pick up a playmat or a shirt or something. Help support the channel. But with that, I appreciate you watching, and we will see you guys for the next one, okay?